So, thank you for joining with me. We are reading A Course in Miracles, Workbook for Students, Part 2 of the workbook, and we are on Lesson 240. Fear is not justified in any form. Fear is deception. It attests that you have seen yourself as you could never be, and therefore look upon a world which is impossible. Not one thing in this world is true. It does not matter what the form in which it may appear. It witnesses but to your own illusions of yourself. Let us not be deceived today. We are the Son of God. There is no fear in us, for we are each a part of love itself. How foolish are our fears. Would you allow your son to suffer? Give us faith today to recognize your son and set him free. Footnote 35. Your son here seems to refer both to ourselves and others. Let us forgive him in your name, that we may understand his holiness and feel the love for him that is your own as well. And now we will read the commentary by Robert Perry and Alan Watson. Fear is not justified in any form. Practice suggestion. Try to be vigilant all day for any instance of fear, including worry, anxiety, or nervousness. When you notice an instance, repeat the line in this specific way. Fear is not justified in this form, because fear is not justified in any form. Commentary by Alan Watson. Fear is deception. When we are afraid we have been deceived by some lie, because given what we are, sons of God, a part of love itself, nothing can ever harm us or cause us loss of any kind. Therefore, when fear arises, we must have seen ourselves as we could never be. The reality of what we are is never in danger. Nothing real can be threatened. All the things in the world that appear to threaten us are simply impossible, because we cannot be threatened. Not one thing in this world is true. Nothing unreal exists. All the threats of the world, whatever their forms, witness only to one thing: our illusions about ourselves. We are seeing ourselves as something vulnerable, a body, a fragile ego, a physical life form that can be snuffed out in an instant. That is not what we are. And when we fear, that is what we are thinking we are. In order for us to come to believe that we are something else, the eternal Son of God, forever secure in God's love, beyond the reach of death, we must be willing to learn the unreality of all that the world seems to witness to. Eventually, we must come to see that to attempt to hold on to the reality of this world is to hold on to death. If we insist on making the world real, today's statement, fear is not justified, will never seem true to us. Everything in this world is vulnerable, changeable, and will ultimately pass away. If we try to hold on to it, fear is inevitable, because the end of what we are holding on to is also inevitable. The only way to be truly free from fear is to cease to value anything but the eternal. That does not mean that we cannot enjoy what is temporary, that we cannot, for instance, pause to appreciate the beauty of a sunset which passes in minutes. But we come to understand that it is not the sunset we value, but the beauty it mirrors for a moment. It is not the touch of a body we value, a body which withers and is gone, but the eternal love it catches and expresses in the moment. Not the form, but the content. Not the symbol, but its meaning. Not the overtones, the harmonics, or the echo, but the eternal song of love. Let me practice then today by repeating, fear is not justified in any form. And when fear arises, let me remember, they are foolish. Let me recall there is no real reason for them. Let my very fears remind me that the truth of what I value never passes away. Now, if you please, will close your eyes and join me in the meditation of Lesson 240. Fear is not justified in any form. How foolish are our fears! Would you allow your son to suffer? Give us faith today to recognize your Son and set him free. Let us forgive him in your name that we may understand his holiness and feel the love for him that is your own as well. Fear is not justified in any form. Thank you so much for joining with me in the meditation, and now we will read the last sentence in the What is Salvation section. I read this yesterday, but that's okay. I thought it called for it, but I'll go ahead and read it again today. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait until his Father is remembered. Dreams are done, eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. And now we will read the commentary by Alan Watson. What is salvation? Salvation results not in a perfect material world, but in a state in which, eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. As we enter more and more fully into the holy instant and the vision of the real world it brings, we are literally hastening the end. Let me try to hold it. We are literally hastening the end of time itself. The phrase, the real world, is in actuality an oxymoron, a self-contradictory pair of words, for the world is not real. See chapter 26, section 3. The real world is the goal of the Course for us, and yet when we have attained it fully, we will barely have time to appreciate it before God takes his last step, and the illusion of the world vanishes into the reality of heaven. The nightmare is gradually translated into a happy dream, and when all the nightmares are gone, there is no longer any need for dreaming. We will awake. Salvation, then, is the process of translating the nightmare into the happy dream, the process of undoing the illusions, the process of removing the barriers we have built to love, the process, in short, of forgiveness. The experience we are now in is our classroom. The reason we are here is to learn the truth, or rather to unlearn the errors. The Course urges us to be content with learning and not to be impatient. We will not be and cannot be abruptly lifted up and hurled into reality. It would terrify us, like a child in kindergarten abruptly made president, or a first-year piano student being forced to do a solo recital in Carnegie Hall. Each of us is exactly where we belong, learning just what we need to learn. Let us then enter wholeheartedly and joyously into the process, practicing our holy instants, receiving our little glimpses of the real world, each one assuring us of the reality of our goal and the certainty of its attainment. And that is the conclusion of What is Salvation, part 2 of the workbook. And thank you for joining with me for lesson 240. Fear is not justified in any form. I love you.